Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Wednesday, May 18th, 2022, and today we are going to be talking about Representative Madison Cawthorn and his defeat in last night's primaries across the state of North Carolina. As many of you I'm sure were watching on CNN, MSNBC, or maybe even on my own live stream, there were many hotly contentious primaries in last night's election, but none more contentious in the state of North Carolina than the GOP primary for the 11th Congressional District. Even the Senate races were decided by astounding margins for Representative Ted Budd, who is now the presumptive, or actually now elected nominee for the GOP on the Senate race. Sherry Beasley on the Democratic side. She is a former Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court. But beyond that, what we were really looking at yesterday was the 11th district in specific. We covered it very heavily, and it was an extremely close race. Now, Madison Cawthorn called State Senator Chuck Edwards last night and conceded to him, recognizing the results of a free and fair election, not continuing what many people would call the big lie. We have started to see some levels of circulation about mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania and the legitimacy of their primary there, but we aren't seeing that happen in North Carolina, thankfully. But the main takeaway is not that Madison Cawthorn is taking a stance that he believes the election results, but rather that he actually lost as a sitting United States representative. Now, if you take a look at this 11th district, what had happened was there was a number of candidates who entered into the race, and many of them entered into the race primarily because of the fact that they saw Madison Cawthorn as someone who could be easy to take down. Madison Cawthorn is a name that has been riddled by scandals. Quite literally, so many. If you take a look back at just mid-April, you find another scandal of Madison Cawthorn caught again with a gun at a North Carolina airport. You see another one revealing photos of him with women's lingerie on. You see another one about ethics complaints and then Venmo transactions leaked, and none more damning than the leaked video that Madison Cawthorn now calls blackmail or an attack on him as a U.S. representative. These multiple scandals piling up came directly after Madison Cawthorn called out the national GOP and congressmen all across the nation and had insinuated that there were, in fact, I'm not going to actually say, but some very strange things happening in the United States Congress. And immediately following that, and I don't know if it's correlated or not, but immediately following, all of these leaks started to come out. And it seems as if that because Madison Cawthorn did take on the very large names within the GOP, including the likes of Kevin McCarthy, that people believe that this was an intentional hit by the GOP to get rid of Madison Cawthorn, and it succeeded. Regardless of what the intent was, these leaks in a multitude, every single week, a new leak coming out against Madison Cawthorn, it eventually got to the voters to a point where they couldn't even renominate him on the Republican side. Forget the general election. And as a result, Madison Cawthorn lost. Now, if you take a look at the results, it wasn't a resounding defeat or a resounding victory for the Chuck Edwards, the potentially speaking representative-elect from North Carolina's 11th district, just considering how conservative that it is. But what had happened was that Madison Cawthorn couldn't even get a third of the vote in his own district. If you take a look, a lot of the vote was split amongst many of these candidates. People couldn't bring themselves to vote for Madison Cawthorn again. And again, that has largely to do with these scandals. Without them, he would have soared to re-election. He would have easily won this primary, and there really would have been no contention against him. But because of his outspokenness or whatever it might be, he resulted in a loss. Now, the interesting thing about this is that Madison Cawthorn actually won the most counties in his district. He won practically everywhere around, get this, State Senator Chuck Edwards' district in North Carolina. This is the exact district that he represents, with, obviously a little bit different of the lines, but generally speaking, these three counties make up the Senate district that Chuck Edwards comes from. And these are the most populous counties. So all he had to do was win in territory that he was recognized and a notable name, winning 50% here, 43% here, 35% here, when Cawthorn's at 24, 25, 25. These are large victories for Chuck Edwards in these districts and in these counties. And when you take a look at the surrounding ones, well, it's a lot closer. Even though Madison Cawthorn is leading, it's a lot closer. Cawthorn's up by 2. Some cases he's up by a lot, but in other cases, he's really not. You're not seeing the level of a 50 to 25 breakdown like you might see in other parts of the district. In fact, not a single county did Madison Cawthorn get above 50% of the vote. So with Madison Cawthorn out, I think this goes to say that a scandal upon many can bring down a candidate. no matter how electable they may seem, no matter how ingrained in the party politics they may seem, no matter what Trump endorsed or not. Chuck Edwards defeated Madison Cawthorn is a huge, positioning point for those who would oppose other candidates that might still be Trump endorsed. Donald Trump's endorsement holds a lot of weight, but in this primary, I am shocked at its inability to even bring Madison Cawthorn to 1/3 of the vote. It's not because of Trump's endorsement that he lost, but rather I thought it would benefit him in a tremendous way. These scandals are scandals that, sure, are very bad, especially for a Republican candidate that tries to uphold and tries to implement these values and these beliefs that directly contradict with what has been leaked, jokes or not. This idea that Madison Cawthorn is this family man or this traditional family values conservative, it might be partially true on his front, but these leaks seem to suggest otherwise. They seem to suggest that Madison Cawthorn isn't who he says he is, and the Republican voters didn't like that, even with President Trump's endorsement. This level of scandal takes down truly anyone. U.S. representatives on the Republican side rarely ever face any trouble at being renominated, and typically those that do are the ones in opposition to Donald Trump, not the ones who are endorsed. If you take a look at this idea of primarying from the right, it's traditionally a more conservative candidate. Madison Cawthorn is about as conservative as you can get, at least on face value. Chuck Edwards, as a state senator, didn't really change much in terms of ideology relative to Madison Cawthorn. There were no fundamental differences between the two. It was just Chuck Edwards was a name that people recognized, and Madison Cawthorn was a name they certainly recognized, but this time not for good reason. Back in 2020, he won this open seat. As the 11th district was drawn out, he ran against Mo Davis. Now, the interesting thing about this is that in the old map, his district was Republican plus 16. Madison Cawthorn only ended up winning by 12. It wasn't an overwhelming victory, but Mark Meadows ended up leaving this exact position and served as the White House Chief of Staff. Now, if you take a look at the primary results, it actually was interesting because Madison Cawthorn didn't get the most votes the first time around. If you're wondering how a runoff election actually works in North Carolina, well, the cutoff is 30%, not 50%, meaning that a candidate needs to get above 30 in order for them to outright win. And in this case, 2 candidates did, but because it's above 30, it's whoever gets the most votes. So that was the cutoff. Linda Bennett got first, Madison Cawthorn got second. So it headed to a runoff election, and then Linda Bennett actually got the endorsement from President Trump before. Madison Cawthorn got the endorsement of Mark Walker. But by the primary runoff election, what you found was that Linda Bennett actually received less votes around, and the overall total amount of people voting was cut in half. It seems as if that primary runoff election was just about turning out your voters and bringing people out to vote for you. But taking a look at who had actually endorses Linda Bennett, I'm actually quite surprised that she ended up losing. But again, like I said previously, the Trump endorsement really isn't everything. But Madison Cawthorn ended up winning through this exact runoff scenario, winning 66% of the vote. In 2020, in the first round and the second round, he got about 31,000 votes. That's nearly less, actually, than what he got in this primary as an incumbent this time. He got 30,600 votes, which means there are voters out there who might have voted for Madison Cawthorn before, but certainly did not back him this time around. I think this is also a testament to Madison Cawthorn being extremely outspoken and how that can cause you to lose a primary. I think the scandals played a major part, but Madison Cawthorn has gone out there and taken on the national GOP and taken on affinity groups that he probably shouldn't have. The good thing about being a U.S. representative is that most of the time people vote for just your incumbent. Meaning if you win one race, especially in safe seats, maybe not a swing seat, but especially in safe seats, which is the overwhelming majority of the districts we have, about 80%, you don't do anything. You just sit there and win re-election. You don't speak for a reason. There is a reason why you only ever hear from the party figureheads, or at least, and I don't say figurehead in a negative connotation, but just in a means of these are the people who lead the party and are the most outspoken for a reason, because they know they are safe. They know they are safe from a primary, and it won't be detrimental to them. But for the rest of those representatives, they know that being outspoken could cause them to lose, could cause them to be primaried, could cause them to lose a general election. Madison Cawthorn, had he just, been in the United States Congress, not done anything in the sense of going out against the national GOP, not speaking to the press in a heavy way, he would have won this primary and would likely have served for the rest of his life. These districts are drawn to keep people in a solid GOP area, and yet Madison Cawthorn is now serving as a one-term United States representative. I mean, he has lost the first step to re-election when this should have been, practically speaking, the easiest part. Now, I just think that a lot of these scandals definitely were calculated. I'm not one to try to dive into conspiracy theories or this idea that people are shoved out of politics intentionally, in most cases. But I think this is an exception. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to say that immediately following Madison Cawthorn's statement against the national GOP, that 4, 5, 6 scandals came out 1 week after each other. I mean, just look at the dates. You find a scandal, okay, this is entirely on his own doing, but it doesn't help. April 27th, 2022. This leaked. April 22nd, 2022. This leaked. April 28th, 2022. This leaked. May 5th, 2022. And you know what was right around the corner? The North Carolina 11th Congressional District Republican primary. And literally 2-3 months ago, that was when Madison Cawthorn went out against the GOP. I am not trying to really promote any idea of, conspiracy theories or things of that nature, but I do think it's weird. And I think it makes sense. If a party wants somebody out, they can do it. There certainly are ways to get blackmail on people. These are not things that are completely outside of the realm of possibility. We're not going to spend too much more time talking about it, but I do think there is a reason why, leading up to this primary, all of these things came out. Because not only did Madison Cawthorn get embarrassed and ostracized within his own district, but also on the national level. Fox News was reporting on it. MSNBC was reporting on it. CNN was reporting on it. And I can guarantee you, there's over 100,000 Republican residents in this 11th district. And many of them, I'm sure, watch Tucker Carlson, watch Sean Hannity. They see these things come across their TV screen, and it questions whether or not they should vote for Madison Cawthorn. And ultimately, they didn't. And all that was needed to win, in the truest sense, was an unpopular incumbent and a state senator who knew his district well, and won in his district by exceptional margins. That's how Chuck Edwards is now, more than likely, going to be the next U.S. representative from North Carolina's 11th district. But the other part that really just took away from me that I also mentioned previously is that the fact that Madison Cawthorn had the Trump endorsement, and that didn't mean anything in this seat. Maybe it helped him marginally, maybe it was able to boost up some level of recognition, but at the end of the day, these incumbents should be winning 80-90% of these primaries. He couldn't even get to the third of the vote with an endorsement of someone who overwhelmingly won this district back in 2020. Donald Trump did phenomenal in this region of the United States. If we go back to the election results in 2020, Cawthorn won by 12. You take a look at the presidential results in this region of the state, what do you find? In this exact corner, one county in the 11th district went blue. Just a singular county. The rest of it was red, and many of it red strongholds. You take a look at many of these parts, you find Haywood County, Jackson, Macon, Cherokee, Graham, 79.5% of the vote for Donald Trump, 76.9% of the vote for Donald Trump, 74% for Donald Trump. One of the main reasons, surprisingly enough, that, or maybe not surprisingly, maybe expectedly, that Madison Cawthorn did the worst in, these 3 counties were the least Republican counties in the district. But they were still some pretty large margins for Donald Trump. It's about a 19-point margin or a 16-point margin. Nothing super substantial. Something very substantial, but not exactly as lopsided as maybe 76 to or 77 to 22 or 80 to 19. Those are obviously much larger victories, but ultimately that did not translate to an overwhelming victory for Madison Cawthorn in these areas with the Trump endorsement. You would expect that to be an overwhelming victory, but it is very clear that Cawthorn was brought down by something else, and that was entirely partially of his own doing. And also, I think a lot of outside players played a big role in the outcome of this race. So main takeaway here for any U.S. representative or future U.S. representative that might be watching this video or anyone that knows one, I would say at this point, keeping your mouth shut is probably a lot safer than speaking out. Obviously, that's not to say don't express your beliefs or views. And obviously, this is just, talking out there. But I do think that there was some level of interference and some level of discontent that Republicans had, that Madison Cawthorn was taking on the big guns within the GOP, being a freshman representative, being someone who they knew they could get out. And it's exactly what had happened. Madison Cawthorn will serve as a one-term representative. I don't know if he will run again in 2022. I know there's a lot of consideration, or 2024. There's consideration that he might be considering it, but at that point, Chuck Edwards will be an established name within the district. He will be a recognizable name, and he will have the most important thing in a primary, and that is the incumbency status by their name. And Madison Cawthorn will still carry many of these scandals and this bad name recognition across the state of North Carolina that he certainly wants to shake, but will be very difficult to do so just one election cycle away. He's young, though. He definitely could have a lot more of a future political aspiration, but I do think that as it stands right now, Madison Cawthorn is not in a good position now or in future elections, but that certainly could change as our country does as well. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2022 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.